Getting started with Kubescape and Jenkins. Here's today's starting point. I have a Jenkins LTS controller version 2.401.1. Attached to this controller, I have a Linux-based agent that has the Kubescape CLI installed on it. Now, what is Kubescape? If we take a look at the documentation at kubescape.io, it's an open source Kubernetes security platform for your IDE, CI/CD pipelines, and clusters. Now, for this video, what we're going to be looking at is one of the items that it scans, which is, in this case, a Helm chart. But I could also scan YAML files, and I can also scan a Kubernetes cluster. But again, for this video, we're going to be taking a look at Helm charts. Now, how do we go about scanning a Helm chart? Well, let's go over into the agent where I have the Kubescape CLI installed, and let's just type kubescape --help. And what we can see here is the command that we're going to want to run is scan the current running cluster or YAML files. Now, the Helm chart is going to be turned into YAML files. So let's take a look at the help specifically for scan. So we'll say kubescape scan --help. And what we see here is that we can scan either cluster, manifest files, or in our case, it's going to be a Helm chart. So it looks like what we need to do is we need to give it some information, and then from there, we will get output from whatever the scan has. Now, for my example in this video, what I want to do is I want to go over to helm.sh, click on charts, which will take me over to Artifact Hub, and let's search for Nginx. I'm just going to use Nginx as an example for this. You can use whatever Helm chart you want to test. I'm going to go ahead and select the official charts for Nginx, and I'm specifically looking for Nginx ingress. So let's click into this, and what I can see here is the current chart version right now at the time of recording is 0.17.1. But I'm going to assume that if there were any security issues with that version, they've already been cleaned up. So what I want to do is I want to go back even further, and I'm going to scan an older version of a Helm chart. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom part of the documentation here and look at pulling the chart. So what I'm going to do inside of my Jenkins file is I'm going to do a Helm pull. I'm going to pull the chart, do an untar, and I'm going to specify a version. Now, this version, 0.17.1, is the most recent version. I'm going to go back a few versions to 0.16.2. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this line here. Let's go back over into our Jenkins controller. I'm going to say New Item, Kubescape. Select Pipeline, and click OK. Let's go down into the pipeline script. We'll paste in Hello World just to get started. The first thing I'm going to want to do, because I'm just going to be using this job to scan the Helm chart, is I'm going to clean up the workspace. So from this part here, I'm just going to say clean WS. So every time I run this, it's going to clean out the workspace, because what I'm going to be doing in the second stage is pulling that Helm chart down and untarring it. So let's go ahead and create that stage. So we'll say stage, Helm pull, steps, and we'll say SH, Helm pull OCI, the full path over to the chart. We're going to do the untar, but in my case, instead of 17.1, I am going to do 16.2. And then in my final stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say stage Kubescape, steps, and then SH, Kubescape scan, and then the chart name, which in this case is Nginx ingress. And then that's all that we need. So let's go ahead and click on save and click on build now. If we click into the console output, what we'll see is we're cleaning up the workspace. We're doing the Helm pull on that chart, specifying 0.16.2, and then we have Kubescape scan Nginx-ingress. We can see the output from the log, and then we see the controls that are being run. And most importantly for us, we see failed resources. There were 0 criticals, 2 highs, 9 mediums, and 3 lows. It gives us all the information about the scan. And then finally, at the bottom, what we see here is the compliance versions for each of the frameworks. But let's go back up to the section where it said we have failed resources. What I really want this job to do is I want this job to fail if there are any highs or criticals found from the scan. Well, let's go back over to our shell and take a look at the output again of the help for Kubescape scan. If we scroll down a little bit, what we'll see is that there is a parameter that we can pass in called severity threshold. What we can do here is we can give it the level that we want it to go ahead and trigger an exit code of 1 if it finds anything of that level. So in my case, that's going to be high. So let's go back over into our pipeline, click on configure, and to our Kubescape scan line, let's add in -- severity threshold of high and click on save. And what we can see here for the very first run is that it was successful. Let's go ahead and click on Build Now. Let's go into the run for number 2. Again, we clean up the workspace. We download a fresh version of the chart. And this time, what you can see here at the bottom is that there is a fatal section here saying result exceeds severity threshold. We can see that it was set to high. And here we can see that the script returned an exit code of 1. Well, if we go back and take a look at the stage view, again, we can see build number 1 was successful and build number 2 has failed. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on Twitter at CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on the subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.